Hi, this is Leading Your International School TV, where we let the world hear your leadership voice. Today we're carrying on talking with Kelley Ridings. Hi again, Kelley.
Hi there, Tatiana. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. So, might be a very broad question. Is an international teaching job or leading job for everyone, for every teacher or every leader?
Well, that is certainly a great question to ask because the answer is no, it's not. And so candidates have to really know themselves well, and teachers have to know themselves well, leaders have to know themselves. And sometimes we get caught up in the drama of the romance of the idea of living abroad, and we think, oh wow, that's going to be exciting, and it does have a certain
But the
appeal, and
reality, but the reality.
that's right. And so that there is a big difference between traveling abroad and enjoying being on vacation abroad and living abroad. And so that's a giant difference. And so some people are really great at traveling and they love that and they love experiencing new cultures, but they like it as a traveler and they're not so much okay with it when it comes to the actual day-to-day living. But when we're actually living abroad, then that's daily life. And traveling is maybe a part of that, but it isn't the main part. It's obviously just an aspect of our overall work lives. And so we're working and living abroad, and that's a whole different experience. Sometimes people might be very family oriented, for example, so they miss home, they miss their family, maybe they miss their friends at home. And so that makes it really hard for them. Sometimes they have health issues that kind of restrict them and they don't feel comfortable seeing doctors and healthcare in the foreign countries where they live. And so they feel more comfortable back home. There can be lots of different things that they maybe have family members back home who are not in good health and need extra care. And sometimes the candidate goes off to live in a new place and then they realize, oh, I shouldn't have done that. My parent needs me or my child needs me if they have an adult child or maybe a young child back in their home country and they need to be there. And so it's hard. And so people have to really understand if they're able to do that and live abroad, because it's not just so simple to hop on a plane and travel halfway around the world to get back home. It doesn't work that easily when we're living and working abroad.
Once I discussed with the local GP this interesting topic, and they told me that there is a thing that an expat anxiety, which actually quite common amongst the teachers, not only educators and other expats too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that I refer to that as culture shock. And so people can experience that for sure. A lot of times especially when people are brand new to working or living internationally and they experience culture shock because things are not the way they are done back home. And so a lot of times they compare, well, that's not the way I did it back home. That's not the way I live back home. That's not the way I worked back home. That's not the way people work back home. And so it's a definite um, situation that can happen. And we're probably not going to face that quite as much when we're just traveling abroad. But when we live abroad, it's harder to escape from that. The reality is we live in a country that is not our own home country. And so we have to learn how to adapt because people aren't going to change their culture. The country isn't going to change the culture. We, as the expat, have to learn how to
How
adapt
to
to that.
adjust. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
This is an endless topic. Yes. So another aspect, speaking of international schools, when they are hiring, what are some common mistakes they make looking for foreign teachers?
Well, I think that sometimes that we touched upon it just briefly, is the
Yes.
rushing through the process. That's certainly a very common mistake that people have, schools have when they're hiring. Another thing that can happen is that the school doesn't have a clear hiring process on how to go about doing the full search and how to check the candidates to make sure that they're going to hire a right fit candidate for their school. Their process maybe relies too heavily on just the interview alone, or they don't do background checks. They don't do all of the search process to figure out how are they going to conduct that search and how they're going to put checks into every stage of their search to make sure that they're finding candidates who are right fits for them. When we rush too much, when we're a hiring leader and we're in a rush and a hurry to get the job done, that's when we're going to make more mistakes and maybe overlook some things that we probably should have been questioning more thoroughly to begin with. So I advise and think that it's very important to really look at all the red flags, all of the caution notes that we might find along the way as we're talking with candidates. And it's not that having a red flag is a bad thing, but it's rather to see, okay, what is this flag?
Yes,
Is
can you
this
please
something?
give us some examples of these red flags?
Well, I mean, some things, for example, are, maybe as a candidates that we're trying to get in touch with them and set up an interview, but maybe the candidate is like, yeah, well, I can meet with you 3 weeks from today. Well, there's kind of not an urgency there. So why is there a long waiting period? Maybe the candidate sometimes is a little bit challenging to set up appointments with. They might sometimes actually start arguing with the support personnel or trying to set up an interview. Well, why is that? And so, what's going on that might cause something like that? Sometimes candidates have resumes that have serious gaps in them, that there's something missing. Why is there a missing part in their resume? Did they leave a job? Did they get fired from a job? What happened that maybe is a flag of something that we should be more cautious about? Another thing that can happen is that the candidate, as they're going through the interview, they might say some things, and it might cause the recruiting leader to kind of question that a little bit, and they might think, I'm not so sure about that. But the recruiter gets so intent upon hiring somebody that they might stop and say, well, I can work with that. I can work with the candidate. I can help them. I can help them to grow and to fix themselves. And that's a real caution, because candidates, they're who they are. I'm who I am. The recruiter is who they are. We have the preferences that we have. We have the work styles that we have. We're probably not going to change quite as easily and adapt quite as easily. So it's hard for the leader to actually fix the candidate after they've been hired. And so it's so much better to take a close look at the flags ahead of time to see, are these things that we can live with in our school, or is this something that really isn't going to be a good fit for us? And then to hire based on what is going to be the good fit characteristics that we should be emphasizing when we're doing our searches for right fit candidates.
Thank you, Kelley. It was a great conversation, and I'm sure, as the topic is endless, it's not the last meeting of us. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Tatiana. I'm glad that been able to talk with you. I've enjoyed it, and I hope that it's going to be helpful for both candidates and for the recruiters and for your audience at LYIS. It's exciting, all the things that you're doing.
Me too. Me too. I hope so. Thank you for watching. Please like this video and subscribe if not yet. Bye.
Bye.
Leading Your International School is an international school leadership consultancy and member organization. We support school principals and those who aspire to become one, with mentoring, training, and ongoing personal and professional development.